and how it works, why you should care, and then how does it apply to my business is our next area. So let me tell you one secret about Harvard Business School and the professors that teach at HBS. We always have to create a 2x2, right? That's part of our contract with the dean. The school insists that we should have a 2x2 for everything we do. So Marco, Ian Seed, and I generated a 2x2 to help you think about, how does it apply to my business? So when we were thinking about blockchain and trying to put it in sort of historical context around the scope of technologies, around the evolution of technologies, what we realized is that there is a precursor technology that helps us create an analogy. And this analogy comes from TCP/IP. So TCP/IP is the foundation for the internet. And this technology was invented in the 70s. Through R&D work sponsored by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to think through sort of a decentralized communications network. And TCP/IP, in the 70s, was viewed very skeptically by those that looked at this technology and said, we can't imagine decentralized networks working. And so there was a long incubation period before companies and individuals learned about the technology and figured out how to take TCP/IP and create a whole new set of applications that we now take for granted. So I gave the example of email, but almost anything you do on your smartphones, when you use FaceTime, when you use Skype, when you go on the web, all of that relies on TCP/IP. And our view is that blockchain also is a foundational technology where we're not going to imagine you as a business person creating a blockchain, something of a blockchain. You will be creating applications on top of blockchain. And that's the way to start to think about it, right? As a business person, you don't care about TCP/IP. What you care about is what you can do with TCP/IP in the sense of, can I do messaging? Can I do chats? Can I do video? Can I do database communications? So blockchain is a foundational technology to think through. And when we start thinking about foundational technologies, there are two dimensions that you want to start to think through. The first is novelty of application, right? How new is the application being created, right? Is it a first in the world kind of an application, or is it already existed before? And the second dimension to think about is complexity of coordination, right? How many other people do you need to also be using this technology in order for it to have any value whatsoever? So think about this in terms of like a fax machine, right? A fax machine is useless if it just sits with you, right? There's no use of a fax machine by itself. As you increase the number of other users that have fax machines, then the value of having a fax machine increases. If there's 2 people in the world with fax machines, then you can go back and forth. If 3, more people can communicate. If there's 10, there's many more ways to communicate. And so these two dimensions help us think through the types of applications that we imagine taking place, right? So here's my 2x2, right? And the 2x2 basically looks at novelty of application, and coordination complexity. And then we can think of this as low or high, right? And low or high. Okay? And then this allows us to think through where the technology is, what the applications are, and how difficult it will be for us to get adoption of these technologies. So in this way, we can think about Bitcoin, right, as a single-use application. Right, where basically what we're doing is we're saying, I need currency, I need digital currency. I don't need that many people for me to have value in the transactions taking place. And I'm basically taking a concept of currency and then applying it all over again. So this becomes a single-use application, and this is what we see happen quite a bit, where people are solving one particularly small problem. I mean, currency is a big part of the world, but still it's a very well-defined problem that we want to solve, and that's where blockchain comes in and enables Bitcoin to come through. Then what we imagine happening is movements this way, and diagonally across, right? So when we cut across, what we see are localizations, right? Where basically what's happening is that we're trying to get some new interesting applications to take place that allow us to do things in a more efficient, effective way. And here we see a lot of the emergence of what we call private chains, where